James. This is the Comedypreneur Show, and today I'm going to talk to somebody who I love. This guy, he's amazing. Like, he's been doing MC work on airplanes, right? That's where he started. That's how he got it. He's good at it. And then he brought it to the stage, and he brought it to the club, and he brought it to my shows, right? A lot of you guys have been asking, how do you MC? How do you become an MC? How do you become good at being an MC? And if you want to meet a guy who's one of the best MCs I've ever seen in my entire life, you're going to want to watch this episode, okay? So let's jump right into this, all right? Here we go. Everybody, please welcome to this episode the very funny, the very talented, the best MC in the skies, Mr. Howard Aronin, and on stage.
Wow! That was the intro of all intros.
Thank you, thank you. You give great intros too. That's what being MC is about, right?
MC, yes, it's about preparing the audience for a fun evening and letting them know that what they're about to sit and watch is going to be something they'll never forget. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be easy, and just all you have to do is sit and watch.
So kind of give everybody kind of a background of who you are, how you got started in stand-up, and then we'll go into the MC bit a little bit.
Okay. There's two. I was I have been a flight attendant for 36 years for the airline that starts with the letter U and rhymes with divided, but I won't tell you the name of it. And that in itself is like hosting a show. Every flight is like hosting a show. It's you're up and down the aisles and doing crowd work and talk. It's been a dream. But way back in high school, I was in sports and drama, and I used to love they'd have a sports or a drama banquet at the end of the year. And I went home and wrote jokes, and I roasted players and coaches and teachers. And that's when I really was into comedy. And I tried here and there, and I went to high school with Brad Gerstenfeld, who you might know as Brad Garrett, the tallest of the brothers. Not everybody loves Raymond. And I watched him just blossom, and I just always knew deep down stand-up comedy was my love, but I just got involved with the airlines. I've been doing that for so many years and been performing on the side. But in the last 5 or 6, 7 years, I've started to think, I want to do comedy only. Yeah. So I've been chasing that dream.
And you started being an MC. You were MC for my show for a year. Like, we had them every month. You were MCing and stuff. And you're one of the best MCs I've ever seen. And I'm guessing it probably comes from being on an airplane, right? Being a flight attendant, having to constantly make those announcements, talk to people, engage, do crowd work. Do you think that was a big part of what made you a great MC?
I'm so flattered by what you're telling me, but it's a people job. Yes, I know if I was a passenger, what I would hate and what I would like of my flight attendant, and I try to make people feel comfortable. But I see so many comedy shows. I also learn what I hate or like about hosts or MCs. You learn by watching and doing.
Yeah, I mean, and a good MC can make a show that was okay, great, and an MC that's not so good can make a good show bad. Anyway, it really is true that the MC controls the whole thing. It's almost like a catcher in baseball, right? They're the ones that are setting up the pitches. They're the ones that's setting up how people move, what's going to happen on the field. The catcher is that person, and even though you're not focused on them, everybody realizes that the game is being drawn there. You'll hear people say, oh, the pitcher controls the game. That's not true. That's not how that works. I don't care what anybody says about that.
I was even told it's like being an umpire.
Yeah, they're okay.
A good host is like a good umpire. If when the show is over, you didn't even notice there was a host or an umpire because the show went so smoothly, or the baseball game went so smoothly. There was no controversies and nothing that bothered you. And I look at it that way. But catcher is good too.
I like that. No, umpire is good too. I mean, that's the thing is they keep the show going and stuff. What was the hardest part, or what do you feel is the hardest part of being an MC or a host for a show? What do you think is the hardest part of that?
It's not a very enviable position to be in. You're first. The crowd is just getting situated. you are the first thing they see. And the curtain opens, or you go to the microphone, and you're about to introduce the entire show. They might not be paying attention, and you've got to, it's hard to go first in anything, but so you have to be, you're the first comedian, but you're also the host, and you're welcoming the people to your house and telling them a little bit about the house and what to expect and walk around. So it's not easy, but you set the tone is a very good term.
I like that. Setting the tone. I mean, that's the thing. You're setting the expectation of, this is the bar. This is what everybody should expect for tonight. I'm going to get you all on board. And you have to kind of get everybody on the same page, right? Because you have all these groups of people that are all in this room together that have no idea what's about to happen. Or maybe they do. Maybe they know how stand-up comedy works, but they don't know what the show is going to be like. And you have to get them prepared for that. And it's kind of like preparing people for a flight, right? Everyone's been on the plane, but you still have that little bit of nervous energy. And, you're still trying to get somewhere, and you still have all these other things going on that you had before you got on the plane or you got to the show, that now you have to get everybody on the same page. Do you feel like it's a lot like that?
I think you just explained it perfectly. Yes. and there's attitude is number one. I've been on flights and I'm tired and I'm in the aisle and people are bothering me and hitting their call buttons. And sometimes my face shows, go away. I don't want to be part of I don't want to do it. I'm tired today. I don't want to be. And they can tell in a second. It's very much like being the host. If you come out and you have that appearance of, I don't want to be here. They pick up on that immediately.
Yeah, that's a good one. And what would you say is the most fun part about being the host or the MC?
Well, I like the umpire. As we talked about umpire, I like when the show is over, people come up to me and saying, that was such a great show because it went so smoothly. It was fun from beginning to end. I can't explain it. You just know when a show works. Some of the comedians might not be that good, or some of them were outstanding, or a musician followed a comedian and what didn't work out. But you fixed it you're fixing it on the spot. Very difficult to do, but sometimes the mistakes, which you notice, they don't notice, and because you have to be kind of sensitive to everything that's happening.
That's true. Yeah, and then you kind of have to monitor what's going on stage, what's being said, who's up next, where those people are. You're kind of like playing like a mom, like you're being like a toddler wrangler, right? You have to be like, okay, you're up next, and you're going to be off in a minute, and this, music has to play, and I'm going to get up there, and I got to do a minute between, or I have to warm everyone back up after that weird set that just happened, whatever it is. An MC is, I would say, is the best and most difficult job of being a comedian. If a comedian can master being an MC, they can be an amazing comedian, because you have to take this short amount of time, get everybody on board, make them laugh, make them want to laugh, and then hand it over the reins. And when you're killing, especially as an MC, you almost don't want to leave stage. Have you had that moment?
Of course. You know when it's a hot crowd, but you're the mother, like you say, the mother hen. You're excited for your comedians because they get to be a part of a experience where the crowd is going to love everything that they say or do, and you're just bringing them out. You don't want to chat too much, because you have to know where you're the host. You're not the comedian, the featured comic. You're bringing these people out. You have to remember, it's not about me. It's about these performers. That's hard to remember sometimes.
Yeah. And as being MC, have you had any great things happen to you because you were good at being MC? Did it lead to other bigger things or better things? And if so, can you tell us about that?
Well, I really enjoyed being the host for your clean comedy shows. It was so fun because I could invite people and say, you don't have to worry because the comedians are all going to be clean, and I don't have to think, oh my God, they might say raunchy things that might be offensive. And I did a show, and two of my high school buddies showed up from El Camino High School in Woodland Hills. They showed up. I invited them, and they surprised me, and I hosted, and that was very nice. And I made references to them in the back of the room. And little did I know, what they did for a living. One of them in particular, he is the producer of these massive music festivals in Calabasas, the Hootenanny shows. They are yearly comedy festivals. And he said, would you like to host the next one? You've done this before, right, Howard? You've hosted 6-hour music festivals, and maybe the Doors, Robby Krieger will be there, and you could auction a guitar off, and then the Spin Doctors, big name groups. You've done that, right, Howard? And I said, of course I've done that. I do that all the time. Yeah. I just went along. I went along, and lo and behold, I've done the last 2 Hootenannies in Calabasas. I was the host of this music festival, which was a dream. And that was all from your comedy shows in which I got to be the host. Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that's what I see, is like, that's how good of an MC you are, right? Someone came to one show, they saw you do it one time. They said, hey, you want to host our massive music fest thing? Do you want to do that? You can do it for 6 hours. You can do that, right? And you're like, yeah, okay. Like, that's amazing. That's so cool, man.
Unfortunately, they didn't have it this year. I assume they'll have it next year, but I did it two years in a row. Some of my favorite musicians of all time were there, and I'm bringing them on stage, and I'm hanging out backstage, and I'm meeting them, and I'm bonding with the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Spin Doctors, and Howie Mandel was that one. And I felt like I belonged there. I really did. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. No, that's the thing. That's what I want to do. The whole point of everything that I do is to help people live their dreams, live a better life through comedy. I love comedy, and that's my big thing. So having you do that, when somebody is so good, you can't deny it, right? You can't deny how good someone is. You're such a great comedian, but also you're such a great MC. And I know a lot of comedians hate on the MC spot. They go, I don't want to be the MC. That sucks. But the MC is the most important role. I don't think comedians get that. Like, if you could be a dominant MC, if I knew I was always going to be working, but I would always be the MC, but I'd always be working, I would totally do it every time. I don't care if it only gave me 5 minutes every night. I could do a new 5 minutes every single night if I want to, because I'm the MC. I'm going to get that slot. I'm going to work every single night, and good MCs are very hard to come by. So I'm grateful for you for being, being humble enough to say, I'll be the MC for a year,
It is a tough spot, and sometimes the host gets to do 7 to 10 minutes up front or something like that. And another problem with that sometimes is the crowd has not arrived yet. And you're doing what you think is your best material, and a half hour later, the room is finally full, and you just have to say, next time. It was not meant to be for those people to see my opening.
Yeah, I always consider like that spot. The first 2 spots on a show are like the prelims for like the UFC. Like, most people aren't watching them. They're still getting everybody to come to their house, getting the food or whatever. And the main event's going to start at 9, but at 7, that's when the prelims start. So I feel like it's a lot of that. And I know that can be very difficult for comedians. If someone was coming to you and said, Howard, I want to be MC, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give them to be the best MC possible? What would be the thing that you say?
I would say the F word, have fun. Have fun. You keep the show going. Keep it on. It has to be like a rhythm to it. A performer's on stage, they come off. You have kind of like a standard. You say their name. You have them applaud one more time. You bring the next one on. It's a rhythm, and you're training the audience. Rather than doing, which you've seen perhaps, a lot of host MCs do crowd work in between the acts. I don't do that. Because I know as an audience member, it does mess up the balance. You can tell. And as a performer, if you're about to go up on stage and your host is yakking for 5 more minutes, it messes up the flow. So those are some of the things that I've learned being a host that I would tell to someone that's wanting to host or MC shows.
And that makes sense, like, especially for like a music festival, right? You have the rhythm of music, right? And so you don't want to interrupt that flow. People are listening to music, they get into a flow state. And same thing with comedy. People get into a flow state and they're part of the show. They're kind of like one mind. So if an MC gets up there and breaks that, then you have to reset the room all over again. And for a comedian coming up, the room was hot, the other comedian left, people were laughing. Now if the MC comes up and blah, 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 whatever they say, boom, people snap out of it again. They're thinking about their food, thinking about whatever. They're not in the mind. And now that comedian has to go back up in their first minute, maybe their first 2 minutes or whatever, is trying to get people back on board. That's terrible. And MC, you're right, keeps that rhythm going. And when you teach the audience the rhythm, they're ready for it. It's like watching a movie, right? You know, like what the first act is. You know when you're at the halfway point. You know you're about to get to the end and the climactic scene there, the final battle or whatever, and then you get the credits and everyone else. That's when we get up to leave, right? If in the middle of the movie they pause the movie and the director came out and said, "I just want to tell you about this part that I did," you would be so frustrated. You'd be like, yes. I want to watch the movie, man. Like, that's what MC is. You're the director, the conductor.
Well said. Beautiful.
So where can people, I know that right now nobody's really doing a lot of stand-up, but where can people find it more about you, find some of your stand-up, see some of your stuff, or connect with you?
Oh, well, I've had a couple things on Sirius Radio. They're called Spins, and they've been going for the last year and a half. They're constantly on Sirius Radio. One is a bit about being a straight male flight attendant, and one is about when I first started flying, there was a smoking section, and we had a woman that trained me to work in the smoking section. So those are like these 2-3 minute bits, and they're on Sirius Radio. You can see you can hear that. You can't see that. But, I'm not doing a lot of Zoom. I'm doing writing. I've during this last 3 months, I've been pretty disciplined physically, mentally. I've lost 25 pounds, I think, right?
Awesome, man. She
said 25 pounds and eating right. And then I have a little 1 hour writing thing I do every day. I'm just writing comedy, working on comedy, looking at stuff, and looking forward to performing on stage. I like being on stage. Call me crazy.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what comedy's about. Is like, you know, the best stuff is when you can get up and perform your stuff or show your stuff. Even if it's making a movie right now, nobody's able to share their movies to theaters, you know, and it's a whole different feeling. I just watched The King of Staten Island, but I watched it in my house, and it's like, okay, it's a great movie, but I would have loved to see it at theaters, you know? So, and where can they find you? You have social media and stuff?
My name is Howard Aronin, and it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, all those. Just put my name in, you'll find me absolutely easily. And I have a lot of things on YouTube, and I think I could host a Zoom show. I've yet to do that yet, but so if someone wants a host for a Zoom show, if they can produce it and do the buttons, I can do the talking.
That's perfect. That's what people need. Thank you so much, Howard, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge about being an MC. We really appreciate it. I know a lot of people had that question. They wanted to know about it, being an MC and how hard it is. And you make it look easy. I hate to say that. I know that sounds like an insult to people, but you make it look easy, and it's not.
Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Lots of love. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it so much.
Good night.